do it again. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen Sewer and Commission meeting, January 25th, 2011. We call the meeting to order. May I have a clerk?
I will make the motion to have Kara as the clerk for the evening.
Motion made.
I'll second out of necessity.
Okay, it's all yours. May we have the roll call, please?
Mr. Chair, 3 selectmen are present. Mrs. Donahue is absent, and Mr. Holmes is on his way.
Are there any announcements?
No.
Citizens' participation, any? 2. Mr. Newman, take you first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I come here tonight, I'm going to introduce a couple of people. We're going to run our Veterans Council ceremonies for Veterans Day and hopefully for Memorial Day, help us out on Memorial Day. We're going to be passing in to each one of you an introduction to them. Their names are William White and Sharon Boyer.
Good evening.
I don't think I have to identify which one is which.
Thank you.
I'm going to read this letter that we're passing out to the board. It's addressed to Jane Dunn, Chairwoman, Wareham BoS Selectmen, 54 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. Madam Chairwoman, and members of the Wareham BoS Selectmen. Any of the Wareham Veterans Council coordinating various observance activities for the town, especially Memorial Day and ceremonies and Veterans Day parade and ceremonies. In the last several years, it has become increasingly difficult for us to promote and coordinate these events. The current council is advancing in age, and younger individuals who are willing to carry on are yet to be identified. Since an awareness and appreciation of our nation's history, legislation is essential for guiding us in the future, we cannot let observance of our veterans' services falter. Council has invited Sharon Boyer and William White to be associated to the council and to act as coordinators for some of the aspects of the council's programs. Sharon and William will be acting for the Wareham Veterans to carry out, and to expand new initiatives. This letter serves to introduce them to you and advise you that they will go forward with the support of the council. The Wareham Veterans Council has appreciated your past support and looks forward to your continued support as we move forward in the year of the veterans. A year to remember. Sincerely yours, James B. Newman, Jr. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any follow-up on that?
Only to say that we will look forward to your continuing support and participation in a grander way perhaps than you might have been asked to do before.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll go with the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, there was one other.
Oh, sorry. We have one. Mr. Smith. How can I forget?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to bring to the board's attention a letter that they have received, both Mark and the Board of Selectmen, from the Mass Department of Mass DOT in regarding the pathway. And if I could just briefly read the letter, it's only a couple of paragraphs. And this is addressed to Mark Andrews. It's from the subject is the projected needs from
Chairman, through you, we are in the process of setting that meeting up and complying with the regulations. You're correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sewell. Now we will continue with the consent agenda.
Okay.
Yes. You're late, you lose out. No, come on. Come on. Miss Manning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was over at the COA on Monday, and Alan Slavin, Oak Street, Wareham, and I asked a comment how they were doing as far as food and clothing and stuff. We've had extremely cold weather, and they're having a real strain on the amount of food. They're having constant people in daily looking for food, so they're running low. So I'm asking if the board would put a request out to the citizens of the town of Wareham, see if they could step up and get more food over to the COA office. And they also need men's jackets. They're running short on, not women's, but men's jackets, in particular winter jackets. And this weather, of course, the last couple of days since I've been back is a little on the cold side. It's been a real problem. So whatever we can do would be grateful. Thank you.
So they'll be able to drop it off right at the Council of Aging?
Yeah, right at the multi-service on account of a council agent.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, and if I may, Mr. Chairman, that the last time that we had made a plea at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, I know that the people in the community were very generous, and if I remember correctly, pasta, meat sauce, protein, whether it's tuna fish or any type of canned meats. I know that they had a good amount of vegetables, but things that you'd whip together and serve your family, but that are shelf stable. And so I hope that we can count on the people in the town again and to come through again. Thank you.
I seen another hand go up. Okay.
David Smith again. I'm also on the board of the Friends of the Elderly, who is going to the food pantry in Plymouth to get food on a weekly basis. And so any food you want to donate to the Friends of the Elderly would be fine also. But they're also doing that. I just wanted to let the board know.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could, just to let this audience and the listening audience know, I did consult with Chairwoman Donahue. Yesterday we did designate the cafeteria as a shelter for anybody who had heating problems or issues with their heating systems to make certain that we could get those individuals to the cafeteria. We started that up at about 7 a.m. and then transported a couple individuals, I believe, to shelters for the evening. But just want to make sure that folks were aware of that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. We'll try it one more time.
You ready for the consent agenda? Okay, we have one bill from PGOCO and Sons for contract number 1, project number CWSRF 3022 in the amount of $311,829. And they would be looking for us to pay that.
Is that a motion?
So I would make a motion that we approve.
And I will second it.
Thank you.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Next, we have the approval of executive session minutes of July 1, 2010, but I was not here for that entire meeting, so there's not enough members, so I propose that we put that on next week's agenda.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I do believe that Mr. Holmes, he was absent, so it doesn't
Right.
matter. I'm sorry, thank you. I think that's a good idea.
We have the executive session minutes from November 23rd, 2010. All selectmen were present. I make a motion that we approve and hold these minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 300.
We have executive session meeting minutes from December 14th, 2010. All selectmen were present. I make a motion that we approve, oh, no, wait, I'm sorry, I was absent, so let's wait for Steve to get here. They didn't put it in parentheses, it doesn't stand out. October 5th, regular meeting minutes from October 5th. I make a motion to approve the October 5th minutes.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 300.
The meeting minutes of October 12th from the regular Selectmen Sewer Commissioners meeting. I make a motion to approve the October 12th minutes.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 300.
Meeting minutes of the Selectmen Sewer Commissioners meeting of November 2nd, 2010. Make a motion to approve the minutes from November 2nd.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 300.
Meeting minutes of the Selectmen Sewer Commissioners meeting from November 23rd, 2010. I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 300.
And if, when Mr. Holmes gets here, if we can revisit the executive session minutes from December 14th.
The license and permits, we have none. Town administrators report.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the board and the listening audience and the audience here tonight, this is probably the fastest review task force that we mobilized. I'd like to ask Dave Bichette to come up. Last meeting, we talked about forming a land donation review task force, which the charge is to make certain that when we do get donations or prospective donations of properties, that the town follows and does its due diligence to make certain that we have a standardized procedure, and also that we have a number of testings and safety nets, if you will, put in place. This task force includes Mr. Dave Bichette, who's chairing it for the town, Mr. John Charbonneau, town planner, John Foster, town treasurer collector, Sheila Scaduto, director of assessment, Mark Gifford from municipal maintenance, and who, by the way, cannot be here tonight due to the fact that his daughter is visiting from the Middle East, and he's home enjoying that company, which I wish. Also, Elizabeth Zaleski, our town accountant, and myself. Dave, can you give the board an update as to where things stand? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, the Land Donation Review Task Force, which sounds dangerous but really isn't, is just a group that was established, as Mr. Andrews said, to establish a process for handling requests that come into the town to donate land. In dealing with a couple of these in the past, it seems clear that we really didn't have an established protocol to handle these things in terms of directing someone where to start in the town hall, who they should speak to, who's going to be involved with the review, and then ultimately who's going to contact the landowner to let them know what the town's decision was. So after we discussed this, we decided to form this group, as Mr. Andrews mentioned, the people that are involved, and establishing this formal procedure will give the town officials a chance to thoroughly review and evaluate any property that is offered for donations so that all the issues are thoroughly understood before the town makes any kind of a decision. And so when the issue ultimately comes before the selectmen, you'll have all the information you need to make an informed decision. Having a process, a formal process, would also provide a more timely response to the landowner instead of this being dragged out because things aren't certain in terms of how it should proceed, and also provide consistency in reviewing these issues. So we did have an initial meeting earlier this month, and the group did discuss some draft guidelines and issues that they felt should be included. Those draft guidelines and procedures are being put together at this point in time, and we will have another meeting, hopefully within the next week or two, to try to get those guidelines concrete so we can distribute those to Mr. Andrews for his review.
Great. And Mr. Chairman, if I could just say, obviously all land donations or any gifts of any type, as we're well aware, come before the Board of Selectmen for their review and final determination. But I think this is a very important step forward so that listening audience and the audience here tonight, Board of Selectmen, understand that we are formalizing and standardizing policies, very much like what Chief Stanley has done in the police department to a great extent, what we've done in the town accountant's office, and a number of other offices, to standardize procedures, make certain that we follow them, and look at them from time to time to make certain that we have the most updated information. But I would also like to say that the town would also like to remain whole. I just want to touch upon this, Dave, that if in fact an environmental assessment is needed of any type, that the individuals that are donating property or looking to prospectively donate property would cover that aspect of it. So, that's going forward, making certain that if we get a land donation and there's some contamination on that land in the future, we've got ourselves protected, Mr. Chairman, and that's the bottom line.
Any other questions?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just, this will just be people who are proposing to gift land to the town. Are you looking at any type of regulations like for 61A or B? Because I know that it's not a donation. I mean, it would be us buying it, but that's also another way that the town can acquire land through a mutual.
Right, I think this is aimed primarily at donations, but certainly any offers to sell property would have to go through the same general process, and even more so because it would have to go before town meeting and so forth.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other board members?
All right.
Thank
Dave,
you, Mr.
thank you
Bichette.
very much. Appreciate
Thanks a
it.
lot.
Mr. Chairman, item number 2 on the leadership team update for the board. Harbor Master Gary Buckminster has put forward new smelt regulations that are enclosed, and there is a recommended motion. I know that the smelt season extends from March 1st through April 1st of 2011, and permits will be available in the Harbor Master's office beginning on Wednesday, February 16th. I would urge favorable recommendation on this matter, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion from the floor?
Mr. Chair, I'm just looking for the... Did you say he made a recommended motion?
It would be this year.
It's attached.
Just to move, and then just... Can we do it?
It's attached on the...
Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'd like to make a motion for the town of Wareham to approve the smelt regulations as authorized by Chapter 67 of the Acts of 1931 to take smelt from the Weweanic River between March 1st, 2001 and April 1st, 2011, to April 1st, 2011, both date inclusive for family use, subject to the following regulations. Limit 36 fish per day. Net size shall not contain more than 5 square feet of net surface. 3, it is understood and agreed by the permit holder that he or she will abide by all the laws and regulations of the state of Massachusetts pertaining to the catching of smelt. 4, fishing is allowed 7 days per week. Application to the town of Wareham only. Permits available to inhabitants of the town of Wareham, Rochester, Marion, and Mattapoisett. No charge for the permit. Note, landowner is not responsible for any damages to person or property. Violation or abuse of privileges hereby granted shall result in revocation of the permit, in addition to any fine incurred.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 4-0-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Board. On item B, I just wanted to report that on January 10th, Chairwoman Donahue and I met with Susan Ventura and Ms. Carrie Mello to coordinate programs and services between Toby Hospital and South Coast Hospitals. And by way of update, we're exploring new programs that they've had installed at the hospital, promoting smoking cessation, something called QuitWorks, and coordinating downtown redevelopment at Bessie Park. Just getting caught up, if you will, with the new Chief Executive Officer of the hospital. And by way of update, Mr. Chairman, item C, from our joint sewer administrative review, we did take an opportunity to drive down to Bourne on Monday, January 10th. Mr. Guy Campina from the sewer treatment facility, Mr. John Sanjanet, advisor, and I met with Mr. Tom Garino, town administrator from Bourne, and his leadership team, including his director of wastewater operations, their town engineer, and Selectman Sewer Commissioner Jamie Solineski. This meeting was just to really kind of get clear on a number of different items, including our agreement with them. And also, we asked when the last time the towns got together, and I don't want to tell you when that was because it was some time ago. So we hope to make this a standard procedure to be able to coordinate with the Bourne sewer commissioners and their leadership team. Mr. Chairman, on item D, I was proud to be with you, Mr. Chairman, Selectman Cruz, Selectman Holmes, and Selectman Carol Winslow at a sold-out event that centered upon our talented youth who have contributed in a very positive way, and a number of the audience members are here at the Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast at the Boys and Girls Club. I found it to be, I was very impressed with the organization and the prestigious event that followed. Mr. Chairman, we're just back from, I guess, the annual Mass Municipal Association meeting, which got a few questions outlined. Governor Patrick was there and gave us some signals with respect to local aid and school aid and other types of programs, including Chapter 90 funds, which will be increased by 29%, which will help our roads and bridges and some of the important financial aspects of the town. Also, a number of us attended workshops on finance and budget issues, and as always, this year's conference provided valuable information as to help communities and other issues that we are facing as we enter into the 2012 budget cycle. Item number F, Senator Mark Pacheco has notified the town that tentatively he and a member of his staff, or both, I guess, will be attending or holding office hours at Town Hall beginning on Thursday, February 3rd, from approximately noontime in room 23, which is the conference room on the third floor, next to our office. Senator Pacheco's office will send out announcements relative to these visits and his office hours going forward. Mr. Chairman, if I could ask you, through you, obviously we've been fighting a lot of snow and ice, as a lot of other communities have and residents have. Important to note that we need to ask for permission to exceed the snow and ice account. I've given you an update as to where that stands. We're watching things very carefully, but as you know, a board motion and board action is recommended for Wareham, and it is attached. And I would urge favorable recommendation.
Mr. Chair, I mean, come on, listen, we want clean streets down to the tar. We want sand everywhere. We don't want to pay for it. Isn't that his job? We have to actually pay him for this?
Just wave your wand and it'll be all right.
I make a motion to approve the deficit spending in the municipal maintenance FY 2011 budget for operating expenses for snow and ice in the amount of $131,998.39. Steve, you should second that.
We have to pay for this?
Yes, we have to pay for it.
All right, we have to pay for it.
Motion made in second. Yeah.
Get my mother
any discussion?
after you then. I thought that was
Any
free.
discussion
I thought that
beside
was
what we
free.
just had? Or?
Just very quickly, I'm sorry, Mr. Andrews, does this also have to go to it has to go to the Finance Committee tomorrow night?
Yes.
Okay.
Just the board action, and then it will go to the Finance Committee through the regular process.
Great, thank you very much.
We don't know the exact amounts yet, but I'll say this to you, that your offices, the Board of Selectmen, my offices, Town Administrator, received a number of complimentary emails and calls relative to how the streets looked this year compared to years in the past, and I'll leave it at that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Job well done.
Mr. Chair, I did want to comment on that. All the kidding aside, the streets, side roads, you name any kind of road in town, and for the most part, heard nothing but outstanding praise for the workers, Mark. And I know you have a lot of subcontractors in, and I was real serious the other day when I recommended to you in that email that I know they get paid.
Right.
But you can't pay people enough to work 24 hours a day, keeping these streets, and then next thing you know, the snow stops, the plow stops, and then the sanders are out. And then it starts snowing again, the plows are out. And these guys are doing a great job. I've heard no complaints.
Thank you.
I think there was a dirt road somewhere, and you got it taken care of right away.
We did, and thank you. And I want to also say that you've been very helpful to me, because I've got 5 other sets of eyes and ears, as I've asked you to give me the information back, that we are up at nighttime, and I do appreciate the offer and the suggestion that we have some type of a acknowledgement dinner, which I will be happy to assist in the cooking, but we really need Chef Stefan. He needs to show up that night. He needs
It
to
goes through
perform.
the town administrator's office, so there's no political
I'll pay for it.
ramifications.
I'll take
Right.
care of it, but
But no, really, in the behavior of these people in these subcontractor trucks, it's just been outstanding. And they're always on the go. You don't see them sitting around coffee shops all night, like in some other cities and towns.
yes.
These plows are on the street. They're working hard, and the citizens of the town appreciate it. So thank
And I'll
you.
say, before we call people and we use our limited resources in municipal maintenance, I want to thank them publicly for getting up. They have got to get themselves out of their driveways. They've got to get themselves into their cars, back into equipment, out on the streets, and it's a coordinated effort all the way, and I appreciate the fine comments as I pass along all the credit to their department and to a little bit of coordination. The town administrator does have a propensity to get up in the middle of the night and take a drive around from time to time, but you can afford me that. I'll take it, but I give them all the credit in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. If there aren't any more questions, we had a motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 4-0-0.
Mr. Chairman, just on the second page on status report, first item, we are closing in as we have, as I've indicated on the last items on the action plan, and I hope to have a written update for you very shortly. We did also meet with Mr. Peter Ferry, and Selectman Holmes has been instrumental in this area to get, we convened the Cranberry Commons Task Force meeting on January 19th, including Mr. Ferry, Mr. Miles Burke, Bob Ethier, Dave Pichette, and we're very, very close in getting part of his properties back up to speed, if you will, with regards to business and some modifications to the building systems. I'll keep you posted. I think we use this going forward as the example for solid resource and economic development. And you know what? It took a little bit of time. We're plodding our way. But you know what? He, as a taxpayer, has indicated to me that he has received tremendous support from town departments that are all listed here. And I just wanted to make that noted, or make that note for the record. I am working with the chief, obviously, on finalizing some of the items in his contract. We also have been working on getting better and more information on the so-called Model Regional Recreation Program. We did receive, and tomorrow we do have prospective bidders in on something called Town Hall Virtualization, which is the computerization of Town Hall and updating of systems. And I am working on business certificates. This is a little bit of a patch quilt, and I'm trying to figure it out. I've been working with Selectman Ekstrom on ways to find better software to track business certificates. We don't have a whole lot of enforcement in this area. I'm trying to get that enforcement in place. I'm working very close with the town clerk and with Mr. Burke, Director of Inspectional Services, on planning that we can ensure compliance. And I believe you all have, or will have shortly, hard copies of the CETA 2011 grant application that will be in your office, as it has been, as they have been in the past. And I did report on the Land Donation and Review Task Force at the earlier point. If you would just also indulge me just one report that, because of the open meeting law, I could not get into the packet, but under the town administrator's report, I just would like to note that we are moving forward on a number of fronts with respect to the fiscal 2012 budget. As I indicated on the Mass Municipal side, the governor did recommend that town governments across the state be reduced or will be reduced tomorrow by 7%, and that school districts going forward will be increased by 3%. That's a starting point in the process. It always has been. I intend to read the governor's budget very closely and report back to this board on what I see as some of the upticks, if you will, and some of the not so good points, and hope that we've already started to write a letter to Speaker Robert DeLeo and to Senate President Therese Murray asking for their consideration and support going forward to move on the town side of it, because it's important to note we don't want to be pitted against school district. It's not the point. We want to move forward with what we got from the MMA, and the governor's signals clearly told us that we'd be 7% down. As you know, in the spending plan that I've submitted to this board, we projected 9% down. So we're where we need to be, but by the same token, it really means a lot going forward in coordination of town services, and I think people really need to be involved in the process in terms of understanding what a 7% down, 9% down means. We took off over $5 million of directors and department heads' recommendations for increases. We took them off already, knowing that the reality of the situation is that it would be something in, I don't have a crystal ball, but it would be someplace in the vicinity of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, pick a number. We picked 9, and we're down 9. But by the same token, I think it's important, as they have in Congress, that if people move, and Selectman Holmes expounded upon this the other night, that if you're looking to put money someplace, tell me where it's coming from. Let me know as a town administrator what your feelings are, because I think that's important. It's just not some magic crystal ball that sends us along our way. It's also very difficult as the legislature takes up these very important fiscal matters. And many of the legislators, House Ways and Means Chairman Charlie Murphy was at the MMA conference, and I talked with him. These are items that are going to play out for years as we're trying to settle important collective bargaining agreements that have not been settled for years, trying to get some capital equipment into the process. But once again, my feeling is that we really have to work together, and it has to be noted where the money's coming from. And if somebody wants to tell me where the money's coming from, I'm glad to listen to you, and so long as it's rational, I'm happy to take it up with you. But by the same token, as they do have in Congress, and they do so have rules in the state legislature, if you want to put money from one place to another, tell us where it's coming from, and I'm happy to work with you on that. But just wanted to report that to the board, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Anders, my impression of the purpose of collaboration wasn't to take money from one spot and put it in another, was to brainstorm where in both budgets there may be monies to close the gap. Did I miss?
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Chairman. No, I think that's the first starting point, but I also think that at some point, even after, if the governor's recommendations passes, it's my humble opinion that we've level funded all of our departments. They are working off of what they had last year, and it's like taking your household checking account and saying, you know what, I can pay the same bills, the gas, the heat, the light, and I do think consolidation and some form of a higher level of collaboration is important. But I also think that it's important to note from the from the get-go, right out of the gate, as I stated in my message, that the departments were asked to think strategically. How best can we operate our departments, from the health department to the building department to the police department and to the municipal maintenance department. And make no mistake about it, if you go 7% down and you hiccup, there's a saying that in some cases when you're cutting the budget as thin as we've cut it, if Boston sneezes, we catch a cold. And what I'm saying to you is that I'm taking it, as I indicated at our joint meeting the other night, to the state legislature to ask them to help us get back that 7%, so that it is in the line item. That we already took a 4% cut last year, and local aid has suffered over 28% over the past 3 years. So municipal side of it, just very clearly, it is what it is. What you're down to, police, you're down to in many other communities because we're separate here, police and fire, municipal maintenance, DPW. So if we want the streets to look like we want them to look, then we have to really focus in on that. I am committed to working cooperatively. I did host a meeting. After that meeting, as you all know, I am committed to it, but I just want it made clear that it's just not about putting some numbers on a sheet of paper. It's about making certain that we can see the human impact that a 7% cut will mean for this town government. As we are trying to settle collective bargaining agreements that go back 3 years, important aspects of facilities and important capital improvements that need to be made. I just want to make it clear for the record because I would have loved to gone to the MMA and had both sides of the equation increased by 3%, and that would have helped tremendously. And that's what I think we need to ask not only our legislative leaders but our legislative delegation to help us move forward in a way. They have their chance up the bat, and it's time that we make that known, that it's simply not a matter of just collaboration. It's a matter of finding additional resources. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead. I'm totally confused now. I think we're having two different conversations. The budget that you proposed to us has a $2 million cut from last year's school number. And the budget that the superintendent proposed has a $2 million increase.
Well, if I may, because it kind of goes to the question I was going to ask you.
Well, may I make, I'm going to not cut this short, but I'm going to bring it on there. Let's stay with the agenda. Right now, we're talking budget, so we'll put it on with other town business. How's that? We'll go along.
Go and just,
Right.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my report. Appreciate it.
Town business. We have the Wareham Police Department certification.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just, I'm sorry, I should have asked this earlier. The chief has a commitment this evening. If we can put this on for next week, it would be appreciated.
Okay, we'll do. We have the Westfield discussion. As per Mr. Holmes, you wanted it on the agenda. Do we have anything?
I do. Is it Westfield? I don't have my paper in front of me. I apologize over the next, I think I have 5 minutes. I may ramble a little bit. My computer was totally destroyed. I just got back from Boston to get another one. So some of my notes, I'm going to have to use my head. Members of the board, as we all know, at the recent town meeting, there was approval of the article for the board to create a review and recommendations committee. And the list, I believe the number was 7 for the appointments. I believe I currently have, and I meant to have it all printed for you tonight, but I didn't, about 18 candidates who would like to serve on the Review and Recommendations Committee. I mentioned it a few weeks ago, and it kind of got passed over. So next week, we still have slotted on February 1st, and I waited till after tonight to call Janet, because I want to make sure that this board understands what we're about to do. And I understand what we're about to do. And so over 2-1, 2-8, and probably 2-15, we'll probably bring in 6 people a night. That'll take up probably 30 minutes of time, Mr. Chairman. So if you could, if we give them each 5 minutes apiece, you're talking 35 minutes. So it may even be 40 minutes we need for these interviews, so we can try to get them in. I don't want to string this thing out for 10 weeks. So if you could get that, Mr. Chairman, if we give it 40 minutes on the next 3 agendas, for interviews for Westfield. And if we turn out that there's 16 or 15, it works out even better for us, and we'll break it down that way. So that's the current state of the appointees. My second issue is I've never hired anybody for a job, and as you all remember from our workshop, we talked about our role as Board of Selectmen in hiring people for these boards and commissions just like they were an employee, except they don't get paid. And so my issue that I hope that we can come to some resolution tonight in agreement is we're going to bring people in and interview them for what? There's no job description. We know what the salary is. 0. So that's an easy one. We don't have any qualifications other than to say, go down by town hall if you're interested and sign up. This is a very clear, specific, and concise board as I see it in my reading. 1, it's an advisory board to this board, nothing else. It's not up to this 7 people to write an RFP or any part of it. That's our responsibility as Board of Selectmen. What their responsibility, as I see it, is, and that's why I'm bringing it up tonight, because if I'm wrong, I need to know that, is we're going to give 7 people an RFP, and we're going to say, review and recommend this. We're not going to give them some blank sheet of paper, and 6 months from now, they come back with 100 recommendations. We just went through this last year with a different board that I supported. So I'm not complaining. But this is an issue that's pretty important to the town. Whether you support Westfield, you don't support Westfield, has nothing to do with this board. What this board is to do is to take an RFP that we give them, and even if we need a workshop on a Saturday, to take the current model and spend a couple hours on a Saturday or 3 hours on a Saturday and bolster that up for the maintenance of the fields and the additional pieces that we didn't have in the original, I'm more than happy to do that. I know I'm missing some things. So I think number 2 is we need to identify the role of the committee. People are going to come in and we're going to say, why do you want to be on the review and recommendation committee? And they're going to give us a bunch of reasons. They don't even know what the committee's for. We haven't identified it yet, right? It's not making sense, or it is. I hope it is, because I've hired enough people in 35 years that I've never done it this way before. And so, yeah, qualifications, I know I brought that up once before, but again, we just said to people, come on in, sign up. So we have a lot of people who signed up. This is to review and make recommendations on an RFP. If applicants have never seen an RFP before in their life, I work with them all the time. I know Mr. Cruz has in the past, and I'm sure you and Mrs. Winslow have as well. I work with them all the time. So if I want advice on it, I want people sitting there who are saying, Steve, you're missing this, or the board, you're missing this. This is what's important. Not how do we rent the apartments, is PM Sequoia and the fields and the grass and all that stuff. That's all pretty good stuff, but that comes after. We already had the Westfield Study Group. And so I'm looking, and we've already asked for the qualifications to be nothing, really, by inviting people to sign up. So in my mind, I'm thinking that committee should have some kind of qualifications. It's even been recommended that we generate a list of questions. Mrs. Winslow and I spoke the other day, that we generate a list of questions for the applicants, right? And I know that can be a, yes.
Mr. Chairman,
My
Mr.
5
Holmes,
minutes
I
is
don't
up.
mean to, no, and I don't mean to, but if there's anyone here that has a black Ford, license plate number 55027, it's blocking Mr. Newman from leaving, so
Not me.
if
I
it's
would never
anyone
do that.
here.
Maybe it's Rick Stanley out there. I'm not
Thank you, sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Holmes, please continue.
Myself as well. So, and I understand that, at this point, these things are coming up next week, a list of questions. I mean, I think we just need to leave that blank and just make up our own questions as we go along, unless the board thinks that we should have 3 or 4 pertinent questions, like, have you ever filled out an RFP before? Have you ever replied to one? Have you ever fulfilled one? And those might be three nice questions.
Well,
So anybody on the list, I will be asking those questions starting on February 1st, so you can bone up on that piece.
Mr.
And
Holmes.
my last, if I could just finish, my last thought. And my last thought is that, in my opinion, it needs to be not recommended, but mandatory from this board to that board of advisors that every Tuesday night, from whatever date they are selected, they sit at this table, at least one representative, not all seven, at least a representative, the chair, the clerk, any member that can show up. One member of that group must be able to attend on a Tuesday night every week under this portion of our agenda, Mr. Chair, and let us know weekly what the issues are, what are the questions, and we deal with it from week to week to week. Because in my mind, in my final point, and I'll stop, I think I went over my 5 minutes, but Mrs. Ekstrom interrupted me.
My fault.
And my final piece is that in my mind, and again, I have it on paper, but in my mind tonight, the timeline is that we begin on February 1st with the interview process, and my goal would be that by April 1st, and we think it's probably shorter than that, but a defined moment in time by April the 1st, and on my calendar out, that this committee has given us our recommendations, their recommendations, and they've reviewed this RFP, and by April 1st, well, it's April Fool's Day, maybe April 2nd, we have already, at that point, released to Mr. Andrews the RFP, and he's already shopping it out. So that 3 weeks later, we can not have an article at town meeting, but I'd like to see an informational table by the Board of Selectmen, we can do that, to let people know when they come back to town meeting in April, look, we heard you, we took your action, we didn't monkey around with this thing, we took the RFP, we took your vote seriously, here are the results of the RFP, here's where we're at today. And then if there's anything we see before April meeting, right, that may need to come up in November, we may be able to list some of those things and say, hey, look, here's where we're at in November, be prepared for these types of things. And maybe at that point, we go into, once we get the RFPs out, then we go into a point where we say, hey, okay, that committee was fine, they did a great job, thank you very much, 7 people, you serve your town. And then as a board, we may say in May, hey, look, we want to now establish a committee to take it to the next level. And it's a different skill set in my mind as to working on RFPs, as to the trees and the grass and the color and all that kind of stuff, right? So, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry I went over 5 minutes, but I've been waiting 3 weeks to say this because it has not been on the agenda. So I'd like to hear comments from the other board members.
Anything from the other boards?
Mr. Holmes, the issue with having standardized questions is that we want to make sure that we're eliciting the same general information from each of the candidates. If we ask candidate A a set of questions and we ask candidate B an entirely different set of questions, how are we to judge? If we ask one, have you ever worked with RFPs, and we don't ask the other about that at all, how are we to know to make especially when we're talking about 18 applicants? And my thought was that in most organizations today, they put together a list of questions and they score people, and I think we do that here when we interview for jobs. And
through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. And, when we just did the interviews for the assistant harbor master, Gary had a list of questions, as we all do. Now, listen, you might ask, and I would plan to ask those 3 questions. I already told the public that. But you know what? And then if somebody says, oh, I did 37 of these or something, that might lead to a different conversation that candidate B wouldn't engage in. But I would think that, if each of us came up with, We're giving them, what did we say, about 10 minutes apiece, it's 5 to 8 minutes apiece. If we each came up with a question or two, and then made and I think it's fair to ask the same people the same question. I think that's fair. You may, like I say, there's always the difference because of their application that may intrigue you, but for the most part, there is a general list. Well, we don't have to write it down as long as we only have a week, so.
Well, I mean, I think if we agree that we're each going to come with 1 or 2 questions and that those are the questions that we're going to ask of each candidate, because I don't think that it's...
I would do that personally, so, I don't know. Brenda, Walter, sorry.
I think Brenda's up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see no problem with that, and I think that if you kind of look back when we have done interviews in the past, you kind of do that yourself. You grab 1 or 2 questions, like, for example, with Steve, I know you said you had 3 questions. Essentially, it boils down to 1. What's your experience with RFPs?
Right.
And so I won't use that for my question, but I'll come up
Thank
with
you.
a question so that if Kara asks the question first, and she has one of mine, and then you do, I think that we can definitely do that. And I think that I agree with you. My only recommendation is that, as you were talking about the dates, February 1st, 8th, and 15th, and I think we do need to get organized on it, that we would have them start the week of February 21st, which is the following Monday, sometime during that week, and that give them a month, 3/21. We could have the Saturday workshop on 3/26, and it would be ready to present to
Right.
Mr. Andrews on April 1st to put that out. So I think your timeline is perfect, and I think that I agree with you that this committee, it is to review, and I asked Mr. Andrews 3 weeks ago, and he got right on it, to get the Westfield RFP up online, so it is up there. So just as you gave the applicants the heads up of the question you'll be asking, I think that anyone who is an applicant should take the time to go on the town's website, look at that RFP, because...
There may be some questions in the interview about that RFP.
Ooh, it's like a quiz. Oh, we
Could
could
be.
do that. So, and I think that, for them to already, perhaps be a little familiar with it, and recommend, as I think the main difference is that we're going to be adding that, the recreation component. And so those are the recommendations that we're going to be looking really for them to go into it with. So I think that, we can have really a statement that, what their job is to, review the Westfield RFP and make recommendations and additions regarding any substantive changes in it, or to add the recreation component, and for the members, for the committee to have 1 member to come in weekly to update the Board of Selectmen, and to have this completed by a date certain, which I would recommend 3/21. But I think that if we kind of had something like that,
Well, that would only
Which
give
is-
them 4 weeks. When I was just looking at the April 1st date, that would give them 6 full weeks of...
but I don't think, I think that if they met, it's an ad hoc committee. If they can meet once or twice a week, I don't really think that, especially anyone that has read it, there's really not a lot, there's a couple of components they have to add. I think that if they met once a week for full weeks, they should have it.
Mr. Chair, if I may, through you, to follow up and to ask Mrs. Ekstrom a question. See, there's the language again. That's different than what I said. When you said all they need to do is add the maintenance component.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I had said
We-
to recommend,
We need to add,
to recommend additions. That's
Right.
what I,
we need to add, the Board of Selectmen need to add the maintenance component and the field and the recreation component. They need to review it.
well, I thought that...
We need to do the RFP. That's our work, not theirs. They're not going to write an
No,
RFP.
I agree, but what I think that, and again, this
Right.
is so that we can kind of get out there, is that I kind of envision them reviewing what we currently have,
Right.
and then making recommendations to us as to what we should add in to get that recreation component in it. And then we'll get their review and their recommendations, and then for us to get together, have the workshop, infuse those two, and then have it ready.
See, I was thinking that our workshop would be in the middle of February-ish, maybe towards the end after school vacation, right? And then we would complete that whole, we'd have some recommendations, obviously, but then we would have to complete the portion on the maintenance in the recreation, anything that wasn't in the original. We would have to add that, give them that as we go along, right? Just as they're going to ask us, we would give that back to them for them to review, and then just any notes or questions they have, they could just resubmit. But they're not going to write that component, correct? Is you
Correct.
and I on the same
agree
page?
with you. I agree.
But see, and I think we need to write that down for them, so they don't go into a room and say, oh, we got to write an RFP. That's not
Right.
in the realm of responsibility.
I agree with that. I don't.
Well, and I think, too, it may not hurt us, and we don't have to do it tonight, but to, give them a mission, statement, vision, guidance, whatever you want to call it, in one short paragraph. It doesn't have to be, but then that way, everybody's clear about what they're there to do and what our expectation is coming back to us as an advisory board.
That's what I'm trying to establish by this discussion right now.
Right. And
We can massage this next, we have a couple of weeks to massage it before we give it to the committee as a whole, because they're not appointed yet.
right.
So we got a couple of weeks to work on this in terms of making sure, and if you'd like, I'll take a stab at taking my notes and put it into some kind of a professional statement. Mine, I'll
No.
just do that.
Actually, that's what I was going to make the suggestion, is because I know that you have, once you get your computer working, once you get your computer up, that you do have, because I know, and I actually,
Is that okay to email, Mr. Chair?
as long as we don't comment back.
Information, as long as it's information.
Yeah.
If I get it up, tomorrow,
If
probably
you-
Thursday morning.
If you send it to all of us, and then we discuss it next week, and we give our feedback.
I will do that.
Excellent.
Now, on the application, like you said, most applications, now you're going to call everybody in, because most of the time when you send applications in, you pick the applicant that you think, by reading their resume, that'll be best fitted, even if we pick 14 out of the 18 or 9 out of the 18, and then,
That's the other question.
right.
Well,
So, we need to keep that in mind, because to bring everybody in here and thinking they have a fair shot, I don't think it's just like going for application for any job. When you're called in, you're hoping that you have a fair chance and not just to bring them in to listen to somebody.
I thought about that when Mr. Holmes mentioned it the other day, but then when I was thinking about it over the past 24 hours or so, I think as much as time-consuming as it would be, I think that everybody that applied deserves 5 to 7 minutes of our time. I think it's the least that we can give them.
I think I might be able to hook them on another committee, too.
Well,
Maybe. You could bring coffee and donuts or whatever it is that you as committees does, but I think that if people took the time to sit down, and clearly some are going to be more qualified than others, and some people look better on paper than others do, and I think they should all have, get their 5 minutes of fame, and let them tell us why they're the best pick.
I agree. I think that, I don't
You
know if it's
agree?
I agree with Mrs. Winslow. I don't know if it will quite 5 minutes of fame, but I do know that if someone applied online, they've got, 5 or 10 questions that they're answering online. Whereas if someone attached a resume.
Which we got
Right,
several.
Right, so if we're looking at it and we're looking at someone who has applied online, they've got 10 questions. They're answering yes or no. They're not writing all their history and all of that. And even some of the people that filled it out. And so I don't think that they were aware when they were applying that we expected resumes with all of their experience and everything. So I don't think that we can really cut that.
All? You guys you think it's all?
I think we have
It's
it all.
appropriate?
Yeah. And
Now-
who knows, after we ask the questions the first week, maybe a couple that are scheduled for the next 2 weeks will say, yeah.
Well, it'd be nice. And Mr. Chair, the other thing is, I'm still trying to fill about, 18 or 19 more slots. So maybe if they don't make this, they'll be in the habit now of filling out the application.
That'll be good.
Yeah, we can-
Well, you can ask him and see what, since you're the chairman of that committee.
So we'll go with, you think 6 is okay per night?
Mhm.
I mean, it's 40 minutes. Is that all right?
I think we should block out an hour, because if we think it's 40 minutes, it's really longer
Yeah,
than that.
between the questions and the going back and forth, we only have a 3-hour meeting, so.
Since you only limited to 3 nights, find out how many applications we got and just
Well,
divide.
Mr. Chair, we don't want to, in my opinion, I just didn't want to keep this thing dragging on for a month of interviews, so.
We have a limit for the 3 weeks.
Okay,
Well, what if we just picked a different night? What if we picked
that's fine.
a Wednesday and we did everybody on one night?
No, I think we can do it. We'll do it this way because we have our regulars, and it'll be fine if we do it. I just need to know so we can set the appointments. And if we need to go one more week because we couldn't or something, we'll do that. But right now, I think the timeline works that way. The month of March, or between the 15th and the March 15th and St. Patty's Day, we'll have everything done, I think. And then ready for Mr. Andrews to submit and for us to prepare some kind of a statement for Mr. Cruz or Mrs. Donahue at town meeting, and then, like I say, have something informational for people to know what we did.
Well, the
Is that
only
okay?
thing that just dawned on me is that if we have roughly 3 hours worth of interviews to do over the course of 3 weeks, if we did them on like a Saturday morning, like we've done some workshops, then we could potentially get them put together a week or two earlier.
Well, that's okay, Mrs. Winslow, through the chair, but we still have work to do on an RFP, so it's all right to take. I don't have an issue with the interview weeks because we have enough homework to do ourselves just to get the RFP ready to give to them at the end of the month. So it buys us some time to get that done. So.
And I think the way the agenda's been going right now, we do have, look at what time it is now, so I think we
Yeah, it
have
would be
plenty of
fine.
time to do it. And next week, you'll have a rough estimate of how many people, there may be 24.
Right.
So we can do eight a night. And we'll do it according to our agenda. We'll make our agenda worked out so that we can do it.
Right.
Some nights we've been here at 11 o'clock, so I think it'll be worth
I
it.
think it'll be just fine. That's all I had, Mr. Chair. I'll write this up and email it out to the board and Mr. Andrews. Is that okay to send him a copy, Mr. Chairman? Would that be all right?
I think that would be fine,
Okay.
since we need a list of all the applicants also. Any other town business?
Mr. Chair, as you know, there was a meeting yesterday, and we had said that we would bring this up tonight. Obviously, unforeseen to us. But there was a meeting yesterday of some members of the Finance Committee, 2 members of the Finance Committee, 2 members of the School Committee. You want to talk about this now? Now's the spot? You
Right.
want to?
The meeting we had yesterday with the school committee, they're going to have an ad hoc committee. 2 members from the selectmen, 2 members from the finance, 2 members from the school committee to meet. So tonight, we're going to discuss that on other town business. So we need 2 members from the selectmen board. You want to elaborate on that, Mr. Andrews, since you chaired that meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I did. There were
There
members,
were 3 of us.
members
Us 3.
Cruz, Winslow, and Ekstrom. Yes, there was.
Yes, it was.
I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I believe we did.
Who else was at the meeting? I'm just asking because.
Sure.
I remember some talk about it on Wednesday night, and then next thing I saw on Monday was an email, and I called you.
Sure.
I know you called me back, but I just couldn't do the 1:30. And then, who else was there?
There were 2 members of the Finance Committee. There
Which
were
members?
members Bob White and Chairwoman Donna Brock.
Mr. White?
There were 2 members of the School Committee, members Sweat and Rhonda
Bugan.
Vegan. Thank you. and Superintendent Rabinovich,
And Claire Smith.
and myself, and the moderator, Chris Smith.
The moderator was there?
Yes.
Did the appointing authority have a meeting posted for that day?
I don't believe so.
You have to be, that's my comment. And
Sure.
I'm using an editorial use, so I won't even look at you. When these meetings take place, I think I'm all for these meetings, by the way. I supported that recommendation on Wednesday night. We really need to be careful who's in that room. I didn't know that we had a posted meeting, and that's why I didn't push it, because I wasn't sure.
Sure.
But we have to be very careful who's in that room, because if you have two members of the appointing authority, or if Mrs. Donahue was there and Mrs. Bronk was there, they're also members of the appointing authority. It's not you. I've got to stop looking at you.
That's okay.
And Mr. Chair, that's a violation of the open meeting law. That's not a by-chance meeting that those two out of three of those people are going to show up, just like if the three of us had shown up.
Well, I
It's
think
not a
what-
by-chance meeting, and that would violate the open meeting law.
I
There's no
don't,
question about it.
I don't think that, I wasn't there when the moderator got there, but my understanding was that the meeting was posted as an open meeting, and she came to
By
find
the
out.
appointing authority?
No, there was a meeting posted for the Board of Selectmen to have this meeting, because Mark figured that there may
Right,
be
but
a
if the
quorum.
appointing authority is there, or any other board in town showed up, you have to post the meeting. You have to have a...
We posted the meeting for us, it's an open meeting.
Right.
It's, I mean, the moderator, or just like
You have to
Mr.
be
White, they can't control what other members of their board, I mean, how was Claire supposed to know that Donna was coming, or how was Donna supposed, I mean, it wasn't like anybody took an attendance, or, called around and said, make sure that you're there. It's,
Well, we don't know, and that's the whole point of the open meeting law. And I know this isn't the topic, but if you even suspect, just as we did on Wednesday, just as we did, apparently Mr. Andrews did for Monday, just as we did for the spaghetti thing, just as we do, every time there's a chance we think three of us might show up, we post. Because you have to do that. I'm not saying anything is a foul. All I'm saying is, you got to be very careful with these meetings. I support them. And listen, it's a very simple thing. You post a meeting for all three boards, or then Finance Committee 4, right? Everybody shows up, it's fine. Nobody shows up, it's fine.
well.
But it has to be posted.
And that's what was decided that day, was that once each, the Board of Selectmen, the school committee, and the Finance Committee sit down, meet, we meet tonight, and then the Finance Committee and the school committee will meet tomorrow night and discuss this and decide whether or not they want to participate and pick their two members for participation, then those meetings will be posted as a joint, however they need to be posted. We did talk about doing that. I think that the purpose of the meeting on Monday was to explore whether or not there was any interest in forming this ad hoc committee amongst these boards, and whether or not there was any potential for working through this problem.
Well, if I may, kind of go into this, it goes back to where Chairman Cruz asked that we continue the budget issue here, and one of the things that Selectman Winslow said about how Mr. Andrews had cut the school department by $2 million, and that the school department had increased it by $2 million, so there was a $4 million swing difference. And just for people out there, that's what this discussion was about, was, is there any place on either side where we can trim things, if we can come to some understanding. I think it was all agreed upon towards the end of the meeting that in the end, it is the town administrator's budget, and whatever the town administrator sees will be in the best interest of the town overall. And we're just kind of looking at it, when you have line items of things that might be a little fluff or perks or something like that maybe we can line out. And the school department did agree that it wasn't just the town side we were going to be looking at, that all of their line items are going to be open and, explained and clarified. And going back to what the governor said, was that, as Mr. Andrews said, he's recommending a 7% cut on the town side. He is looking to restore the school side to what it was before the cut last year, plus 3%. So they're already going to be ahead of where they were last year. And I think we also have to, which we didn't really get into, and I didn't see it in Wednesday's thing, the over $400,000, close to $500,000 that went through at the fall town meeting, the free cash, that were they not going to, if I understood correctly, I thought they were going to be holding that so that they could use it next year. So we've already given them essentially almost $500,000 towards next year, on top of, if the budget goes through as the governor's recommending, that they'll be restored in Chapter 70, plus they'll get 3%. So it looks like they'll be made whole from the figures, level budgeting from 2010 before the shortfalls. And that's what we're holding to. And then they want an additional $2 million. And that's what these meetings are going to be, to discuss, is there any place that either we can find that $2 million, or is there any place where they can trim what's not needed in that $2 million? Is that essentially what it is? I just want to make sure, so that that's my understanding of it, and I just want to make sure that, the residents understand that's what it is, so we're all kind of on the same
Well,
page.
this other meeting is supposed to be taking place when we vote on who's going to be the two members. It's supposed to take place Friday at 10 o'clock, so
Friday at 10 a.m.
unless you want to expound on it, Mr. Andrews.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Member Ekstrom has pointed out quite clearly that it wasn't the town that cut the Chapter 70 monies that go directly into the school district, and I know we're going to have a robust discussion about this, but it was the anticipation of what the governor and legislature will do. And the governor's proposal does get them back to level, plus 3, where we're at 7% down. I've already recommended, and in this budget is Proposition 2.5 levy limit. There's nowhere else to go. We've taxed to the
We're
highest
maxed
amount.
out.
We're maxed out. We've projected our new growth, and then we've level funded all of our departments. So I do look forward to a robust and an informational sharing too, because I think when I look at what was received, as the school budget, I think it's important, and what I prepared, we need to get on and look at some of the lines and see if there's anything else that we can do. But what we've done in this budget that I've provided is balance for the second year straight. Balanced budget. Residents should know it. This board should know it. I believe the school committee and the finance committee knows it. That there's no other way to go above the Proposition 2.5 level that I know of at this particular juncture. That has been certified and set forward. We've set the tax rate. That means we're on our way. And now we need to decide how we look at, because essentially if the governor's budget becomes, and I said this at that meeting, becomes reality, they'll be restored up 3 and we'll be down 7. And we'll have to make do, and that's fine. But I'm open to collaboration and understanding, but the bottom line of it is that to have a balanced budget means that we get better interest rates when we go to bond for capital items and equipment. A balanced budget means you can set your tax rate, because there are a number of communities that are teetering on not setting their tax rate, and we have done that with your guidance and with your advice and counsel. So I do look forward to the meeting, and I do take Member Holmes's points well taken, because it was at the tail end of the last meeting that I said, hey, let's see if we can host something and get something off the ground. That was the purpose of my intent, to bring people together and talk about this, and I know we'll have, like I said, I think a robust discussion and understanding. But make no mistake about it, because this is reality. This is talking about people leaving town government. Our costs are up. Our health care costs are up. Our chargeback for fringe benefits are up. We cover the entire equation. And I want to have that discussion with the school department because I think we should have a memorandum of understanding that says, hey, here's everything that we provide. We pay for it up front going into the budget process. We have to. So my thinking is, on items like that, let's get some clarity. And I think if we can set this in motion and get this done in this cycle, it will help us next year. And I said that last year when we did put $400,000 plus of free cash into the schools, because I believe that that's important, and there's no higher calling to life than vocation and education, as I'm sure we all know. So my feeling is that let's keep this rolling forward. Let's move in the right direction. Let's share information that would be possibly helpful to both the school committee and the Board of Selectmen, and also the Finance Committee. That plays a very, very valuable and valued role in this process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Now, what we need to do is pick 2 members.
Mr. Chair, if I could, just the quickest of brief. One, through you to Mr. Andrews, are these meetings open meetings to the public?
An ad hoc committee, Mr. Chairman, through you. Yes. An ad hoc committee, after speaking with town council, after the question was raised, and it was a good question, does not need...
It's fine.
It's your question, and it's a good... it does not need to be open because we will be discussing...
I didn't ask if it needed to be. I asked if they were, if these meetings are going to be open to the public.
We haven't had one. We just had the organization.
Understand that.
Right. So it's up to the body, whatever the body feels that should be...
Well, you've said several times tonight, and I'm not trying to beat you up, but you've said several times tonight that you welcome comments from the public.
That's correct.
So we're going to have this meeting, and I fully support the meeting. But what's the harm in having it? We could have it right here. Put it on TV and have people come in and talk about it.
I'm all set.
I mean, so I know you are. So I mean, why don't we recommend that? Maybe on Friday you could recommend that to the group.
The question was really just to harken back to your original question and Member Winslow's points, that if you create a super committee of members from boards, the meetings do have to be posted going forward.
Right.
And
which I think it just covers everybody.
Right.
Because
And
people will complain and people will report things. If they even saw Claire and Jane in the same room together, it's a problem. So it's an issue.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. And I think, in fact, take it one step further. I think this body and the other bodies owe it to the general public to take it to the neighborhoods. Let's get out in the neighborhoods and present what the final product is once we get it done, or hold some type of neighborhood groups.
So you will open these meetings to citizens' participation.
I am a humble public
I think
servant.
Right, because you are the,
Yeah.
it is your budget. Yeah.
Steve.
And one comment, Mr. Cruz, before you hang me up. Mrs. Ekstrom, through you to Mrs. Ekstrom, on Wednesday night, Mr. Sweat, when asked by Mrs. Begley, I believe asked the question, about revenue, incoming revenue. And Jeff said that he is looking at all of that, money that's maybe left over from previous year, money that they got coming in from the town, money. So I would expect that the money that was moved around for the job users program from the federal government, right, that balance that they were holding over, I'm not sure if that was for 11 or 12, but I think you may see some of that money in that piece when he gives that. I don't know. Did he give that report on Monday?
No.
He said it was a little complicated, so maybe over the next couple of weeks, you'll see some of that money in that.
It's an excellent point, because everything should be on the table, and that was the point.
Yeah.
Because we're not holding back anything on Proposition 2.5. There's no other, that's the levy limit, that's it. So any other funding sources or funding, recurring revenue sources should be involved in this discussion. That's been on my agenda, as well as finding, let's find out what the 415 was used for and how it was, or maybe, so let's get that report, if you will.
I think that Mrs. Begley's question referenced some of the grant monies that the school has coming in, which would be Title I grants and things like that. I mean, we have a lot of grant monies that come in to the police department, to the COA. They're for specific purposes. So I just think we're opening up a can of worms here, because then everybody's going to say, well, where are all your grant monies and where does that money go? And those monies usually come in for a specific, to pay for one Title I teacher or to pay for one Title I para, or they're not necessarily dollars. The EduJobs money is a little bit different, but they're not necessarily dollars that can just be spent on anything.
No,
Well-
Mr. Chairman, actually, excuse me one second, Mrs. Secretary. You are absolutely correct. The EduJobs bill is a perfect example because we talked about it here, we talked about it at school committee, we talked about it at town meeting floor. That the jobs bill was exactly that, to bring back or retain positions, to bring back or retain. And it did have that flexibility, as Member Holmes has pointed out, but I think we should get a report on let's find out where put Title I right next to the teacher's name, right in the budget.
Well,
That works for me.
And if I may, is that, while I agree that, a Title I, if we get a grant for a Title I teacher, is that grant covering the health insurance benefits that we're paying? Is that grant covering that? And I'll tell you right now, without having this discussion, I can wait until we have another meeting, but there are concerns with the EduJobs bill. Twice I was told in these meetings in the past week that they created jobs. The EduJobs bill was not to create jobs, it was to retain jobs. And now they've created those jobs, and now they're looking to retain those jobs on our dime. And so there are grants, and just like, we get GATRA funding, you're absolutely right, and we can only use that grant to shuttle seniors on the buses. But we don't go and buy a new bus and hire a driver with that grant money, and then next year when that grant money, if that grant money doesn't come in, we say, well, we still need to maintain this. We have schools, we have programs, we have teachers that started out with grant money, and then they have become part of the budget. And I think that we do need to find out about that.
If I could just cut to the chase here, and I don't want to keep mentioning her name. I see her sitting over there, and I don't want to try to embarrass her, but it was a pretty simple question. Mr. Andrews put up a $1 bill, or a Wareham bill, or whatever that was, on the board, and it said, "Here's where the money goes. Here's where the money comes from." And she asked Mr. Sweat a very simple question. He didn't have an issue. As a matter of fact, I believe he said he's working on the answer. He understands what she's asking for. Here's grant money, here's money from the town, his Chapter 90 money, 70 money. And he understood, and he said he was going to, all I'm asking is, if he had the opportunity to report that back on. He said it was complicated, I'm sure it is. But I know that Jeff is working on it.
Right.
And that's all.
But he did
It
not
was a
give us
simple
money.
question, not about a specific grant. Where does the revenue come from?
Right.
Just as we have a $1 bill that says, where is the money going to? Is that not right? Don't speak because you're not allowed.
And on that $1 bill, we have 10%
Right.
is enterprise fund,
That's
and
all-
then on
that's all she
the
asked for?
revenue, it's 10% enterprise fund.
Right, and that's all
And
there.
that's what the grant
And
should
Jeff
show.
said he's working on it, and my question was just to see if he had it done. And I'm sure, he said it was complicated. I agree with him. I'm sure it
Well,
is.
anyways, I think the committee we're going to start out with, they're going to start out, it's going to be a good thing. The Friday meeting is a basic meeting, just so they can get the ground rules down, and from then on, they'll be posting everything normally. In other words, you'll be able to attend if you want to attend. So,
So what do we need to do? Put
we
two
need a-
members, you want to put two in an alternate? Or?
we need to put 2 in there, and hear motions or volunteers.
Well, I would love to volunteer, to be honest.
I would like to go, but Friday I have a doctor's appointment, so.
Well,
And it doesn't make any difference. You talk about the open meeting law and the questions, even if you have 3 from one committee, that third person cannot deliberate in anything. He can sit just as a participant like you are here, but he can't deliberate if he wasn't posted. So it does get technical, but you can have 3 people in there just in case, but you just have to be a participant. So, I hear anything.
I don't have a problem. I told them Wednesday night that I would certainly try to lend my hand to the group. If you want me to be a member, I think that, I'd do it. I think that we should have an alternate. So, because everybody can't make every single meeting.
Right.
But if we had an alternate from the board, two solids and an alternate, so if one of us can't make it, the alternate would
Well,
Right,
I
because
would
you
say,
know,
and if the main reason why that you're not doing it, Walter, is, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, is because you have a doctor's appointment on Friday, then, you could be the alternate between the
Right.
three of us.
Yeah,
We
we
could-
because Steve.
Well, wait,
Yeah.
I'm the only one sitting here that worked
Okay.
with these budgets for years and years and years. I mean,
Well,
I understand what they look like,
we're
and
not trying to eliminate anybody.
Nobody, all I said
There's a
was,
little
Right,
contrast.
they're
I
saying
don't
they're
know,
looking for an
I don't know
alternate.
where
well,
that,
you guys are deciding on, three
No,
people, and
No, we haven't decided on anything yet.
We were just talking.
What I'm saying is Steve
that's
has
what
a business,
discussions are for, Mr.
Steve has a
Winslow, I
business
think.
that takes
We
them
can
out.
discuss this.
and I'm available all the time.
Right.
So, just about all the time. So, if someone else doesn't want to be the alternate, so we have three people here now, so do I hear a volunteer?
You want to be on the committee? Is that,
Carrie, you want to be on it?
I will sit on it, yes.
That's one. Yeah, man.
Oh,
Nominate.
Walter,
I'm sorry, I
did-
had said it.
I'm just asking now, someone's
Right,
going to have to nominate somebody, so.
you want to be on it? And then you want me to be the alternate?
You-
If they can't, one of them can't make it? Is that what you want?
I thought,
Well, I'd be on it. I have no problem being on it. I said I would.
And just because they're on it, you can attend, as long as you don't
Right.
debate anything while you're there. Once they start posting it. So Friday is just going to be informational mostly. So I hear a motion. And since we've got to do one at a time. Make a motion.
All right, make a
Karen.
motion that Kara be on the committee. She wants to be on the committee.
Second. I'm the chairman, I can't second.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
For discussion,
Okay, go ahead.
I would just, my only concern is that I hope that we all, and I will do it as well, that we remember that we are selectmen.
Well,
What is
I
that
hope
supposed to
everybody on this board remembers that at all times.
Absolutely.
We are selectmen, and when we speak, we're speaking for the town. And we're supposed to be acting according what's best for the town and not for individual.
That's right.
So
I'm not, you know what, I don't really want to sit on the committee, so I'm not gonna do it. You know what, I'm just not going to, if there's any concerns that I can't sit in a room and act like a selectman, then I'm, thanks, but no thanks.
I never said anything.
I'll nominate you, Steve.
I just nominated.
No, I'm not, I don't need that in my life. So I'm all set. You guys, you figure it out, whoever wants to sit on the committee and whoever wants to be the alternate. I personally think that we've got a big problem here that faces us, and that if we don't come to some resolution, then town meeting will surely resolve it, and we're not going to be happy about that, so.
Kara, I just made a statement about us being selectmen. The same thing now. We're selectmen. We need to go to these committees. It cannot be a personal thing. If you think you're going to be good for the committee, you need to go. All of us need to go. So just because someone made a statement and you're going to rebuttal, no, that's not the way to go. If you want to be it, Steve nominated you. Brenda seconded it, unless you withdraw.
I find that comment to be highly offensive, that we all need to behave like selectmen. We're all sitting here adults, elected equally by the community. If we can't sit in on committees, and if I have to sit next to somebody who's going to question my ability to be a selectman, or believes that I can't sit in a meeting and be productive as a selectman, then no, I don't really consider that to be a true partnership. And no, I don't think that that's a productive use of anybody's time.
Well, I'm going to end it right with this statement. You can always take things two ways. She could have been talking to me, or she could have been talking to herself.
All of us.
So we'll leave it at that. We had a motion. We had a second. There's no more discussion. Unless you withdraw, I'm going to ask for a vote. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion carries.
Who else wanted to be? Did you want? I don't mind being the alternate.
Yeah, you.
No, you or whatever you
Doesn't
want
make
to
any
do.
difference.
Did you want to be the member? Why don't I make a motion, Brenda be the member?
Motion made
Second.
for Brenda.
Second.
Kara, second. No discussion. All in favor?
Just make sure you
Aye.
behave as a selectman.
Absolutely.
And-
And you're right, and not as a parent.
We need a
That's
motion
right.
for alternate.
because you're representing the town.
That's right.
I make a motion for Steve to be the alternate.
Second.
Motion made and second. No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carries.
I will try to behave
And
as
if
a
Steve
select-
doesn't make it or can't,
Yeah, if you just can't make it, let me know, and
just let me know and I'll...
like I say, and Mr. Andrews said he would open the meeting to the public, so if I show up and sit in the back, it's okay.
You've done that before?
Yeah.
So that way we'll have more discussion on budgets or whatever you come up with. Any other town businesses? Well, we'll step to the next one, sewer.
I was going to say, we haven't gone through to everyone for any other town business. I have a couple of things. As Mr. Andrews mentioned, that we attended the MMA conference. Ms. Winslow, I got a lot of information for the pay-as-you-throw, so I'll take this opportunity to once again make a plea to anyone out there who is interested in the idea of a pay-as-you-throw.
Mrs. Ekstrom?
Yeah.
I was going to talk about that under liaison reports.
Oh, okay.
We can't do the pay-as-you-throw under the current system that we have because they were relying on grant monies that we can't obtain unless we have a single hauler.
Who was relying on grant money?
Well, the recycling committee, in order for startup costs I was going to go over it in liaison reports, but
Okay,
I
well-
guess that for right now, they're not going to be having that committee or that meeting. They need to look into some of the issues that came up with, so.
Okay, I would say, because I'm not quite sure about the grant. I know that the pay-as-you-throw program, that it is, well, I have the information. I can give it to you. I believe that thank you. I believe that there is, that even with this program, that you may not be able to get grant money for startups or something, but if you contract with someone to do this, a lot of it is, they will, they'll offer things for that. But, okay, anyway, I have information for you. I attended one of the seminars I attended. As Mr. Andrews said, we did a lot of the budget ones and stuff, but one of them was law updates. And one of the most recent ones regarded I&I and the I&I fees. I don't know if I see Mr. Campino out there waving. I am nodding his head there, smiling. I'm not sure if he's familiar with it. Massachusetts Supreme Court just ruled that I&I fees are unconstitutional because they are not in Emerson versus the City of Boston. They're not by choice. They don't particularly benefit that person, just like a betterment. So there is some case law that I think as sewer commissioners we need to review, and as the sewer department we need to review before we go forward with doing any I&I fees. The other thing is, in conjunction with Mr. Andrews talking about the Mrs. Silva and Mr. Burke working on the business certificates, just a update on the board that Mr. Andrews and I are still working on the Wareham Works, and that we're hoping, I think it was the last week in March, is that what it was? Something like that. Anyway, we're the 19th or the 26th or something like that. So, but we are still working on that, and we're going to be really looking into kind of contacting businesses in the community to kind of get it more of like an economic development type of, I don't want to say job fair, but kind of to show Wareham wears, if you will, or whatever. So we're going to try to expand a little of that. And so we've been working on that. And finally, and I think this may be the most important one, in the past couple of weeks we've had quite a bit of violence in the town, and I was approached over the last couple of days by some residents who are very concerned and very upset about the negative impression that's being put out there. Something bad in Wareham, we get front page news at the Standard Times, and and it's Yeah, and, we have something negative happen, and we're on all three, or four channels of the Boston News. We fix it or something good happens, there's no news team around. So one of the things that I had spoken, thank you, I had spoken to Mr. Andrews about this morning after the residents had spoken to me, and Mr. Andrews gave me permission, if you will, to speak to the lieutenants, and that we would like to organize a Stop the Violence rally. Stop the Violence, we know that there's only a few key players out there, if you will. But the community needs to come together. The community needs to, let it be known that we're not going to take this and that we stand united. Right now, I have also, the police thought it was a wonderful idea. Lieutenant Walsek has talked to one of our other, offered to talk to one of our other officers about possibly getting some music, so I'm sure some of you know who that is. Also, Lieutenant Walsh made the suggestion that we reach out to the schools, and I'm going to talk to Dr. Rabinovich and see if we can get maybe a poster contest and an essay contest. And so I guess this is a plea for some of the local businesses that want to participate. I'm going to contact AD Makepeace and South Coast Hospitals, see if we can get that. And of course, then, the Onset Youth Center, the people that are working with that, the Boys and Girls Club, and anyone else. And I'm going to try to see if we can get some type of working group to meet, off the cuff this Saturday, and to try to come up with events and things like that. And so we can kind of show what an awesome community Wareham is, and let the few little thugs out there that we don't want this here. So, and any of you, if any of you would like to come, you're more than welcome to. I haven't set up like an exact time or anything like that, but I can certainly post it as a selectmen's meeting, and but just that's kind of what the police and and like I said, it came from members of the community. So all I have.
Anytime on Saturday, you can start wrong way and try to find.
Well, no, because what I'm going to do is I don't know yet. I have to, because if I'm trying to get in touch with asking a few of these people and no one can make it, then we may have to do it like Friday or something. But I didn't want to go any further with it until I had talked to Mr. Andrews. So, like I said, residents had approached me, and I talked to the police, and it's just a matter of trying to coordinate it. But I will do that, and if notify the board. If the board, I can post it. I don't know if any or all of us will show up, but as long as I post it tomorrow sometime, then we're fine.
I think the year going to the initial meeting, right? That should be fine.
Okay.
And then after that, just let us know if you need it.
Okay.
But yeah, if you don't know a time or a location, tell people you have a meeting on Saturday. You're going to have to find us.
Right. Well, that's why and that's why I kind of want to reach out to this, to the stakeholders, if you will, to put that out there. And once I get a few solid confirmations, our office will let them know where it is. So if there is anyone else that wants to participate. Right. I have the key. Thank you.
Carol, do you have anything for any other town business?
Nope.
Steve?
I've taken up too much of your time already.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kara, you want to do 2 minutes? Yeah. Is it 2 or just 1 that we need?
We have 2 bills. Well, there are billing going out to Bourne. The third quarter billing dated January 19th, covering a time period of January 1, 2011 to March 31st, 2011, in the amount of $61,006.62. I make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Motion's been made. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 400.
We also have the annual capital cost billing for Bourne for FY 11, dated January 19th, in the amount of $188,477.53. I make a motion that we approve.
So moved.
Motion
I
made.
would second.
I thought I heard your mama. Motion made and second. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll take it. Vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 400.
We have a sewer abatement request for account number 737968. Oh, okay. Oh, from this? Oh, okay. Okay. Which is map 61, lot 1034, 379 Main Street, Michael Fitzgerald, Finbar, LLC. And account number 737968, map 61, lot 1034, 381 Main Street, Michael Fitzgerald, Finbar, LLC. Oh, wait, I see. The request that's being made is an abatement of $596 for the first half of the 2011 sewer usage bill for the above two accounts combined, because the water department removed the meters on June 24th, 2009. This replaces this? Okay, because that's from Guy.
Yes, it's an addendum.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it's an addendum. The addendum is actually $99.34 because of the fiscal year. I guess we bill in 6-month cycles, so he's credited back 1 month opposed to 6. So it was originally put out at $596 for the year, for the full year, and I guess he's only entitled, because the water has to be off for 1 complete year, and there's only a 1-month abatement that he's entitled to. He's been notified and told about that, so it's not a $596 abatement. It's amended to a $99.34 abatement.
Okay, but he requested, and what you're... Okay.
There should be copies. I apologize.
So what you're saying is that the request, we can't do that request. We have to go with a partial abatement in the amount of $99.34. Is that the two sewer bills combined, or is that each?
It's combined. The way I understand it, and I was confused also, because we found a policy that stated that originally it was a whole 6 month that we had to abate. There's a policy, and I forget exactly when it was, through the sewer commissioners, that they were entitled to do prorating. So therefore, because he shut it off in June, July, it was a month, he had to pay the July and not the June. We go back a year, so he had to pay the 1 month, and that was it, opposed to the entire year. We wouldn't abate him. He was entitled, he had to pay some of that bill. That's how I understand it. So, and he was called and brought up to speed on it, and he agreed to it, and so he's getting abated $99, not $596. Because the policy says see, people turn their water off, and it has to be turned off by the water department and be off for 1 year before you can apply for an abatement. So when he was sent the policy, and he understands the policy, it was amended. And I apologize for this getting through, because rushing things, it shouldn't have hit your desk for the full 596. It should only have been the 99 that hit your desk, and I apologize. So I have two choices. We can pull this off the table, review it, re-come at it, or just do the addendum. It's up to you. I'm not going to give him back $596. He's only going to get back $99, so it's however you want to do it.
So my question would be, if you turn my water off tomorrow, I have to pay for sewer for the next 12 months?
Yes, you have to, and it has to be shut off by the water department. You can't just turn a switch under your sink and say,
right, no,
my water's off. So the water department, in other words, you have to be without service for 1 full year, as I understand the policy.
I understand that, but we do have a letter from... You want to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, my understanding of it was that the reason why we said that the policy states that it has to be off for 1 year is so that we don't have seasonal residents shutting their water off at the with the water department in October and then turning it back on in April or May.
Absolutely.
And expecting to get an abatement for both water and sewer. And I believe that the water department also requires, before they'll give abatements or whatever, a very similar thing. I think that with Mr. Fitzgerald, it's a little different because this isn't a seasonal thing. This is someone who is trying to really develop and revitalize downtown.
That's right.
And I think that the $99 issue, and I may be wrong, but when we bill for sewer,
Yes.
we bill August to February.
That's right,
And then
February to
February to August.
That's right.
And so therefore, the 99, bless you, the $99.34 would be the 1 month of July for those 2 sewer bills
Correct,
because you shut it off at the end of June.
correct.
And then the $596, would he have just gotten a bill for that?
I don't, he was pressing the bill for the fiscal year 2011. That bill just went out. And he hasn't asked for that abatement. He's, as I understand, he's asking for one abatement. I'm only addressing that one abatement. If he has any
All right.
others, so you,
All right, if you don't mind, I just want
yeah,
to
please,
read this.
please. It's downtown Wareham, it's that piece of property, yeah, that whole stretch there, I'm not sure exactly which one, but it's that, he's trying to rehab it and redevelop it and the whole nine yards. I believe it's the Franconia and then also the Fish Market. I believe it's those 2 particular pieces of property there. And it's, in the past, as people put water off, but even if you're not using water and it's not officially shut off, it doesn't give you an abatement. So I think that was the issue originally.
You had already talked to Mr. Fitzgerald, and he's in agreement.
Correct. Correct.
That settles.
He's in agreement with it, and as he applied, we called him back, explained it to him. He agreed to that.
He'll be coming back in for the abatement for letter.
My understanding is that he hasn't seen a bill, I guess, and when he gets a bill, then he can do that again for the half a year, the $298, I believe it is, or whatever it's going to be. I'm not sure.
Okay, and I think that we just need to be aware, because when you said that it's off for a year, there is something, and I'm off the top of my head, I'm not thinking of it, but it is something that as far as that, we can only go back so far. So if we're telling people that they have to wait a year to file for an abatement, but we can't go back more than 6 months or more than a year.
So, that's right. It's kind of confusing.
Right, we need to, I think
Absolutely.
we need to clarify that, because,
Absolutely.
and like I said, I thought, and, I'd like to take a look at them, because I thought that first one was because of, I don't want to say because of, but in light of this seasonality of some users.
Absolutely, some businesses, some homeowners, absolutely, and thinking that they can shut the water off and it bypasses the bill paying, and then they put it back on and they go forward and they can say, okay, give me half a year. And I believe, and under Mr. Andrews' guidance, we're talking about policies in general, and we're going to write up a letter for an actual intern, because we're going to pull all these policies together, have them review them all, go through all the Board of Selectmen meetings, and then we can pull the policies together that are applicable. We pull out because we have to. There's policies everywhere, and you're absolutely right, Mrs. Ekstrom. It gets confusing, because especially on the billing, because I found 2. One says that we were going to, it's a full 6 months, and then I found another one that says we're entitled to a pro rating. So which one do I take? So I took the most recent one, and said, okay, that's what I'm going to go with. But we need to have a clear set of policies, and Mr. Andrews is absolutely right, and he's helping me get together the intern and have this all reviewed. And then we can come together with a booklet, and you can all review it and say, these are the policies we want, we reestablish them, and we move forward.
Right. And I have a feeling that over there may have been a lot of policies that were established without the sewer commissioner's, without having the sewer commissioner's signature on them, that, you may you probably are finding.
I'm
those.
finding things because it's not on your letterhead, it's on our letterhead. And if I find it on our letterhead, then I question the validity of it. If it's on the Board of Selectmen's letterhead, then I say, okay, it came through the Selectmen and Sewer Commissioners, and I'm more likely to believe it. Not that I'm accusing anybody, it's just that because I think if it's a policy, it comes from you folks, not from us, so it would be on your letterhead.
All right,
And
so
that's all I'm
we're just
looking at.
it's going to be the 99, and then if he comes back for the 296.
We can do that at
Okay.
that time, because I believe that the fiscal year, and we're billing now for 12 because of the increase, and he didn't have the 296, because we just did that, and it was approved. I believe you guys approved that recently, the increase, so it really doesn't affect him. So if he wants to come back, he's more than welcome to, and I'll be happy to abate him.
We just told a gentleman who came here who had a structure that had burned down or was decimated that we couldn't go back that far, so that's definitely a
1 year.
conflicting. We can only go back one fiscal year to abate, and if your water has to be off, so that's, for me personally, I'd rather do this next week and take a look at what you're looking at and some of the
Policy itself, absolutely.
and
It's
because
established.
I don't think that that's how we've done the abatements. And I'd like to see the last few that we did, because I don't want to make him wait a year and we've done something different.
Well, he's already there. He's had it off for a year. He's done, and so he's asking for the abatement. And at this time, I was going to give him the abatement. If we have to have clarity for the future, then we need to look at that policy and maybe reestablish it, because we do have a policy, and I'll show it to you, and I'll bring it to the meeting.
I believe you that
states the 1 year, and that's what we have to work with.
Right.
And I have to go by that. I can't say an exception to it, and so that's what I'm applying, and if we want
well,
to
I
change
think
it,
we
then
may
should
have
change it.
inadvertently made exceptions to it, is what I'm concerned about.
I can't speak to that. I have no idea. I won't speak
I
to
think
that.
the one you were talking about, that water was shut off for quite a few years.
Well, that
Years.
that one
right.
was, but then
So
the
I
ones
think
that came
if
up next
The
after
owner's
that.
in agreement with this right now, and the sewer director is in agreement, I think we should just go ahead and do it. So it's up to the board, whatever the board favors. There isn't a
I
motion
think
yet.
there was a
no?
motion, but I don't know. I think Mrs. Winslow stopped because there was a change in the numbers or something.
Correct. It was an addendum.
The addendum.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, originally you have the one that says 596. So him and Mr. Campina and Mr. Fitzgerald ironed it out and came out with a $99 abatement. And they're both in agreement, and it's been just about a year, so.
I agree, yes, and we definitely notified Mr. Fitzgerald.
And then we approved this abatement for account 737-967-737-968, in the amount of $99.34.
Motion
In
made,
total, right? In total.
Total.
Second.
motion made and second. There isn't any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. 3-0-1.
As soon as Mr. Andrews, working with him, we get the intern, it's good to have this workshop, and you all get involved in that. And his advice has been, really, really superb in that area, because there is confusion in policies, and we have to standardize. Everybody has to do the same thing, and I agree, and some of it is confusing, but that's what we have to work with, and so we can make it better.
And
Yeah,
Mr.
no, I think that's a great idea.
So we'll go from there.
And Mr. Campina, and you and Mr. Andrews can get together, and even if we have to have a sewer meeting specially, just for sewer, it may be better. This way we concentrate on one thing. You're not here to the end. Whatever day you want, we'll get up with the board, and we'll meet, and we'll do it as the sewer commission. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, we have another abatement request. This request is dated January 10th, 2011. They're looking for an abatement of the sewer betterment of $15,010 assessed to number 6 Parkwood Drive, map 38, lot 321B. According to the Board of Assessors database, this map and lot is a vacant, non-buildable lot and was not given a lateral for a sewer connection. The property owner is Steve Barrows, who resides at number 4 Parkwood Drive but uses number 6 Parkwood Drive for mailing purposes. and Mr. Campino was kind enough to enclose the backup to this from the assessor's database. I know I have the same issue on my property. I have 2 lots, but only one's so I sympathize with this. So the motion would be to approve the sewer betterment abatement of $15,010 assessed to number 6 Parkwood Drive, Mr. Steve Barrows, of number 4 Parkwood Drive.
Second for discussion.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just very quickly, I absolutely understand what's going on and why it's going on, but are these 2 parcels actually, by looking at this, it looks like that they actually get separate bills for these parcels?
According to the assessors, there was 2 separate buildings, and he actually owns 3 lots. And some reason, 2 lots get combined into one, and then he has the other.
Well,
His driveway is on 4 Parkwood, which is a piece of land, which is non-buildable, and then 6 Parkwood is non-buildable. His house is on 4 Parkwood, but his address is 6 Parkwood, and then there's another small piece of property next to that that's his, that's not mentioned here, and there's only 1 property, and there's 1 lateral. And so, when he came to me with it, I just told him just to pay the 2 and it'd be done with it, and he wasn't happy with that, so we discussed it further, and he was absolutely right, that he's getting two betterments for 1 property, and he only has 1 lateral. It's kind of confusing.
And I have no problem with that, and I do understand it. What I'm saying is that my concern is that in 1951, the town, in order to prevent sprawl, or I don't know, whatever you'd want to call it, infill, what they did is that anyone who owned lots at the same time, abutting lots, if it was by the same owner, those lots were conjoined, and that's why Mrs. Winslow said I can feel for him because I have 2 or 3 lots, all have different numbers, but it's 1 parcel. She gets billed. Should be getting billed. No, billed once.
I get billed 3 times.
I have a triple lot.
I have 3. I get billed 3 bills.
There's something wrong there. There's something wrong there with the
That's right.
assessors.
And it's 1
Because,
property.
right, and if it's in the same name,
Yes, it is.
and they're conjoined, adjoining lots or abutting
They're
lots,
contiguous, they're all
then
3,
they need to
absolutely.
be conjoined if they fall below what our zoning regulations are. And this is what was, like I said, it was done in 1951, and it's supposed to be done all the way through. So I don't have a problem with doing this because, I know that this happens occasionally when they're looking at what they're billing, but I would appreciate it if we could contact the assessor and have those as 1 conjoined lot. Notify them, because it does come,
It's
it doesn't.
confusing.
Because what's going to happen, and I'm not saying that this gentleman, but we have had in the past that 5 years, 10 years down the line, somebody who has that, who gets the abatement, who, it's an unbuildable lot, they turn around because they're 2 separate, they sell 1, and then that person comes in with the unbuildable lot stamped right on it and tries to get a way to build on it. So
Yes.
these things need to be cleaned up as we find them. So I'd appreciate if you would
Contact
notify the
you.
assessors, and
Absolutely.
if there's something that I'm not seeing, but I'm pretty sure with zoning, that's the way it was. And looking at the size of these lots, right now, that area, it's MR 30. So 30,000 square feet, they don't add up to that, so.
And I agree with you. I have that fear also because part of my problem with the whole thing is sewer coming through a neighborhood. And also, everybody tries to take these small lots and make them buildable, and then we have a lot of problems.
Welcome to Rose Point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I drive through Rose Point, and I'm just amazed that some of these mansions on the water, and so we're taking 2-bedroom cottages, and we're making these huge houses,
Right.
which taxes our system. We only, when we do the capacity, we have a specific number, and then we allow these expanses, and then, of course, it changes everything, and that taxes the system. The betterment doesn't pay for it, so
Right.
it becomes a tax to us, and then we're catching up trying to run and operate with limited funds, and we're getting more than we're being paid to treat.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair, through you to Guy, how many is this now?
To answer your question directly,
Are we up
I've
to
only seen
4?
one,
Is
but I
this
hear
number 4?
I've heard rumors, another lady has been mentioned, but this is the only one that's been brought to my attention that I'm acting upon.
All right.
I've heard talks of 3
Because
others,
the
but I haven't
abatement-
seen them.
Well, the abatement on this document says $15,000 in $10, that's not quite true, is it?
Well-
That's not the total that the town is going to lose because of this miscalculation.
It's removed, it's $15,000 we give him back.
$15,010 plus 20 years at 2.5%.
Absolutely.
We have to pay 2.5% on that, we're paying 2% on that $15,000 over 20 years. So the abatement is more than $15,000,
In the long run, absolutely.
correct?
If you look in the long run, because this $15,000 was figured on the number of properties we did the entire betterment on.
Can we
So,
get that number for next week, Mr. Chairman?
I don't know
Please.
what's going to happen. in the
Mr.
I'd
long
like
run.
to know how many official betterment fees in contract one are we already out? And this is one of the reasons why we had a long debate a few weeks ago, whether no interest or a 0.25% interest or a 0.5% interest covers this project. Because this is more than 15,000. And
As you
if we're
back
up to
these-
3 already, that would be 45,000 times 2.5% in 20 years that we're missing. I don't have the number in my head.
And if we can have the actual compared,
The actual.
right.
We need to know,
Because
see,
they
this is
estimated maybe
important.
at 350, and now it's going to come down to 325. We're losing.
Because we still have to pay that money in the end.
Yeah, so on the big picture.
So it's not Mr. Barros's fault. I'm
No,
not-
not at all.
It's on
Not
the
at
town
all.
side that my concern is. And if we are up to 4, that would be 60,000.
But it goes to
That's a lot of money.
Mrs. Ekstrom's point about cleaning up the assessor records to minimize this from happening, because there's only so many laterals out there. And if the information they're basing it on, in fairness to our attorneys and to CDM, whoever else, if they're doing the research and there's so much conflict as to how much is out there, these mistakes are going to happen. So if we clean up the assessor's office, and I'm not pointing fingers, but we eliminate these things from happening.
Well,
or
and I
best
agree,
try
and
to.
I agree with, with that, and not to blame the assessors, I agree with that. But it's also a CDM, and I think that we need to look at that. If you're CDM and you have, Mr. Barrows at 4 Parkwood, you have Mr. Barrows at 6 Parkwood, you have Mr. Barrows at 8 Parkwood, or whatever it is, doesn't the bell go off there?
You're right, then they call Mr.
Do you know, or at least
Well,
to
they
check
blame
it
each
out?
other, because they
Listen.
call our attorney, I think it's Mark Deshays, I think his name
Deshays,
is,
that's
and they
yep,
called him. Well, they're saying it's Mark's fault. Mark's saying I gave him all the information, so now we have to play this blame game, and it doesn't do anybody any good. The bottom line is that we have to make it better, and I'll take the initiative, and I said, there's somebody in the middle, so I'll take the initiative, and then I can physically go and inspect and say, hey, wait a minute, this is a corner lot. You can't have two laterals here, or one lateral, so I'll take that responsibility as we move forward into other projects and make sure that this doesn't happen, because I have to be the go-between between Deshays and CDM, because one's here, one's there, and there's no communication.
And I appreciate that, and going forward, I do appreciate you doing that, but I think that, you said, pointing,
The go-between between Deshays and CDM, because one's here, one's there, and there's no communication.
and I appreciate that, and going forward, I do appreciate you doing that, but I think that, you said, pointing fingers and, nothing gets done, but the
Someone's gotta
truth
pay
of the
for
matter is, pointing fingers, unless there's a finished product as to which finger is pointed at, it's the residents that are going to end up, the
Who
sewer
pay the
users that
price.
are going to end up paying. So
Absolutely.
I
agree.
think that it definitely should, at least be spoken to. This isn't the first time that it's happened, with projects.
Well, if a lateral wasn't put in, they knew it was unbuildable. So it's the assessors or whoever. And with this fella here, he should put the correct address no matter where he's living at, whether he's living at 6 and 4, so it's misleading.
Well, he uses 6 as his address, and 6 is his address, mailing address. 4 is a lot that 6 is on. The lot next door is 6 is a non-buildable lot, so it's confusing, and somebody needs to straighten that out. And who that is, I don't know, but somebody needs to straighten those little tiny, there's a lot of these little issues out, and it comes to light when you do a sewer project, because it is come into light, and I don't know how many more are out there, but
The
as
bottom,
they come forward.
bottom line, though, Mr. Chair, is that we went through this large exercise a few years ago on these contracts, and literally, if you think about this, somebody literally walked and dug and surveyed inch by inch of these areas of the town, and I just find it hard to believe that somebody would walk up to this parcel of land with a map and not understand that there's only one there. I just don't get that. Do you?
No, I don't, because there
I
is
don't
one.
get that.
I drove my, well, let me go see.
And that just cost us a lot of money.
Yeah, and there is just one. Make no mistake about it.
And I'm
There's
not
one
blaming
house
assessors,
on
I'm
that
not
corner
blaming
lot.
anybody.
No.
All I'm saying is,
You're absolutely right.
they had a list, right? And we went off the list. And then somebody actually walked the streets and looked at these properties and dug and put pipes in and never once said, geez, you know what? On my chart here, it only says one. And yet we're going to bill for two.
But it speaks to accountability and
lose money.
responsibility, because someone should take it a step further and say, wait a minute, I know this says, but I only can put one lateral, let me make a note and pass that on, but
I have trouble with
you're
that.
paying me for one job, and that's all you're going to get, the mentality of,
Yeah.
I can't speak to that, but
In
you're right, I agree.
reality, we're really not losing anything, because if they figured out how many laterals there were, and they didn't put that lateral in, so it wasn't figured in, it's just the assessors that charge them for the
But they-
lateral that wasn't in.
I understand that, but if you see this parcel, that parcel was billed, so when they did the total numbers, they counted those parcels,
Right.
divided that in.
When they
Not the
count,
lateral.
when they count the parcels, they put a lateral for each house that's buildable house. If it wasn't, they wouldn't put a lateral in there.
Right, and they didn't
So
put a
they didn't put
lateral.
They didn't put a lateral, let me put a lateral for the
So,
one.
it's
But
just a
they billed
mistake.
for the lot.
It's a mistake on the assessor's part, that's all.
Right, but I,
15,000
I don't know.
should have been spread out amongst 400 people.
No, they
That
never-
15,000,
They never
losing
put the
that,
lateral
no?
in to begin with. They count the laterals.
but they counted this for the betterment
Yeah, absolutely.
on our total bill.
Well, the assessor counted it, but when we got the contract, it's bid on so many laterals, so many linear foot, so many laterals. So the contractor was right, because it wasn't. It was our mistake. We
Well, the-
billed them
They
for
count
And
laterals.
Mr. Cruz, you're right. I think Gioso, you're right. The contract was right with what he did.
Right.
And I believe where we're coming down, or where the error was made, is our attorney, Mr. Duchesne, is saying, hey, every lot, I gave you the information, and gave it to CDM, which CDM was to, hey, we have 100 laterals, and we have 101 houses. What they did is that they billed 101 houses.
That's how they figured the numbers. That's how they figured the betterment. They took the 101 parcels, divided the number out, so this is our betterment. And
Right,
there's
they
really
did the
100.
parcels instead of the laterals.
Right.
And that's,
So
therein lies the problem.
And I guess that's what-
Should have been split by another 15, but I think the number is up to 4 the last time I heard.
Mr. Chairman,
We can get that
we will
number from
get that.
Mr. Andrews next week.
You will get that number, and also, let me just harken back to, real quick, to the retrospective betterment project that we got done to understand what happened in the past, because to understand what happened in the past gives you some mask of going forward to understand what we can do in the future. And I agree with Selectman Holmes. Somebody was paid to go to each of these sites with a flag and put them in the ground, and it didn't get done. And the next time we do the next contract, I can assure you it will get done, particularly with Mr. Campina's leadership on this. So, Guy, let's get that information together
Absolutely.
with the assessor's office, and get it to the board so that they can understand it, and move on from there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I do, the discussion of 2000 water and sewer rates, that's specifically, strictly for your information. No discussions needed, just have it, that's all. It was given to me, I passed it on.
Thank you.
And the only thing I have real quickly is, at the last meeting, Mr. Holmes asked me to go out there and find out about the location of the pump station in Agawam. So I spent some time talking to the individuals that are actually out there. Here's my take on it. I'll tell you what I'm finding out. First of all, CDM says we can put it on our property that we own, which is west of where it's proposed on the property of the three gentlemen out there. We can do that. It's an added $235,000 cost, $225 because of the 20-foot dig, and $10,000 for engineering fees. And those numbers are based upon the $3.5 million projected when they originally did it. So that number may change when it goes out to bid, but they're using existing numbers when they put them together originally. So we know we can do that at an added of $225. Now, I talked to the individuals that own the property. None of them that I talked to are willing to give up the property, but all of them do understand that in the best interest of the community that we may decide to use that property. And then they're worried about fair compensation. And I just explained that to be appraised, and that's what it would use by, and they certainly have an input in that process. So the decision would be to this board, and next week you'll have CDM here, Mike will be here in front of you, and you can ask him specifically for real specific numbers. But we can, and we have, time is the essence to get this out to bid. So our choice is, do we just cite it where it was going to be cited, tell the individual that that's what's going to go, and do the fair compensation. I talked to the attorney about eminent domain, and certainly you folks have that power. That's your decision. Or you have the lot. That's going to be more because we're going west, and there's such a high cut. That's where the money's coming in, and 20-foot cut. And then I worry about the water table, and they don't even know how much water they're going to have to take out to do the construction, and you're going from plastic to ductile because of the depth. So those are the specifics. So we need to make a decision, decide we're going to site and move forward. Mayflower Ridge is pretty straightforward. The gentleman that we're going to site it on is in agreement, has no problem with it. We'll get that done, and we'll move forward, and that part of it can be done. The other alternative I asked, and CDM will come back with some numbers, and I just threw this out there. What would happen if we dropped off Mayflower and did just Agawam, got rid of that pump station, the linear feet? How would that cost affect Agawam? I don't know. It's just an idea. I don't know about the comprehensive plan. Can we drop? He said we can, but that's something we'd have to decide upon, and maybe put it in a later date to another comprehensive plan and stick, the Mayflower Ridge into that. So there's some decisions to be made, and you can put all these numbers together, make a decision, because there's going to be a substantial benefit, and I think we need to consider that. So that's what I found out in the last week for you, Mr. Holmes.
Well, Mr. Chair, I would say that we definitely need to have that conversation with Mr. Judas as soon as possible, because time is of the essence and it has to go out to bid, and those decisions need to be made fairly quickly.
He needs 4 weeks to complete his engineering before we can even go out to bid. So, and we have to be the bid by March to meet the June shovel-ready, shovel in the ground deadline for the revolving fund. So time is of the essence. And I do want to state this, one of the things that was constantly brought to me is communication. One gentleman, Gary, talked to, he owns the corner lot there, and he said he was contacted in 2009, and he wasn't contacted since then. And I beg to differ, because people did say they contacted him, but he said he hadn't. But there's a communication thing, and I, like I said to him, there's two sides of it. This is open and notorious. And sometimes I need to go seek out the information. I've been told for many years, ignorance is no excuse. Well, sometimes you need to seek out information. And I'm not saying that we didn't do our due diligence, but at the same time, they must do their due diligence. And let's keep that lines of communication open, because it takes two to communicate, not just one. So I think communication is critical as we progress on. So.
Well, March is there a date in March by which we have
We're talking March 1.
We have to be out to bid by March 1?
Yes, there's probably a week fudge, but if I say March 10th, we'll probably shoot for it. It's best, in talking to Mr. Judici, March 1st is the date we should shoot for to go out to bid, because we got to get the bids out there, review them, and we're suspecting, because of the economy, we're going to get a whole lot of them. So that means more that we have to weed through. So,
well, and better prices.
Absolutely,
because
much
the
better prices.
anticipated betterment on this is in the high 30s, right?
It's 35, 36. You take 3.5 divided by 141 is your ballpark.
It's big.
So, yes, and we should get lower bids, and there's going to be many of them. We just have to be smart, too, because there's going to be a lot of people bidding that may not be qualified. And, of course, there's a process to weed those out also, but we have to be realistic. But I suspect we'll get lower bids. People are starving. There's companies with trucks parked. Yeah, absolutely. The time is right to get the best bid possible. If we decide that we're going to move forward, then we need to, I agree. Or we can say drop the whole thing. If we think that the prices are going to be substantial, that may not be fair, then we have to make that decision also. But we'll never get better prices. It is on our list, and so we have to decide what we're going to do.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Guy, thank you very much for that follow-up, and I think that it's important that you keep that forward. Now, I'm going to make a statement to you that I'm going to hold you responsible for this project, just so you know that.
Okay.
I know that you're new since September. I think you've done a good job. But going forward, you're the man, and I know you have others working for you. I know you have other people doing things for you, but I'm going to hold you responsible. Doesn't mean a hell of a lot because there's 5 of us, but this one is going to hold you responsible. So when you come back here in the next 10 days or so, make sure it's your work, because come July, it is yours, right? You don't have other people around you. And you see the stuff that's going on with this 15K, and you saw what went on in other projects. And you know what? It's a new day. It's a new contract. Contract 1 is done. We haven't decided contract 2. We haven't decided contract 3. And there are some who believe that the betterment system needs to change. So, who knows? Maybe betterment contract 2 will have a different betterment strategy. Who knows? I don't think we're going to charge anybody $30,000 to put sewer in front of their house. I don't think that's going to happen. So we'll see what happens down the road. But I just wanted to say that to you because, you know, I've talked to you several times. You're the guy in charge. We don't have a lot of time, so you're right.
No, I'll take that
You
responsibility.
know what I'm
and
telling you.
I'm hoping next week when you come, and Mr. Hughes will be here, that we can make a decision as how we're going to proceed. Do we take the property,
Right.
which is the better interest of the community, and get a lower, and then move forward and just go? I mean, we're going to have to make that decision, and whatever it is, whatever you folks decide, I'll take it and run 100%. And I will make sure there's flags in front of every single home, because one of the concerns that, and it troubles me a little bit, one of the homeowners said to me, this is great because there's 4 lots that I can subdivide them and build 4 houses. And I says, well, not on my watch. That's not the goal. The goal is to sewer, and he's talking about subdividing already, and I don't think that's the intent of us trying to sewer these areas. And so I said to him, no, I'm not going to, I mean, if I have anything to say about it, I said, I'll be very upfront with you.
But I'll
That's
tell
not
you
gonna
what,
happen.
you put 4 there, and I pay you $60,000, and then I go to sell it, you tell me you can't build on it. That wouldn't be too good, would it?
No, so
That wouldn't
I
work
mean,
out well.
And these are the kind of things that I want to look out for, and I'll put 1 flag there, and that's it. There'll be 1 flag, we'll count them 1 by 1, we'll double count it, we'll triple it, and make sure that we go, that we have,
No changes in
You know.
location that we've talked to, you and I have talked, right?
Absolutely.
No changes in location of pump stations.
once we make a decision,
Make sure
it's
we have
over.
the right number of people who are going on sewer, right?
Absolutely, and we have to. And as a body, as a board, you make a decision, that decision is solid, and I'll make sure that decision gets upheld, because your decision is what's
Thank you,
important.
Mr. Chair. I just wanted to get that on the record.
Thank you. Yes, we are.
Is there any other sewer business? If not, now, we still haven't decided on the Parkway Drive. I don't think we made a motion or anything on that. You going to hold on that?
I think I move we just abate them back to 15,000. I don't know if did we make, I don't remember. I thought we did.
Yeah, we discussed.
Yeah.
it. We never made it.
No, we made the motion.
We discussed and then
Brenda?
we changed the subject.
Oh, you know what, you're right, I don't think we voted.
Yeah, because I second for discussion to talk about the assessor's
and
thing
then we
that went
kept
on,
going.
so I guess
That's
it's
right.
all
You're
in
right.
favor.
It's made and seconded.
Okay,
Aye.
we're going back. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0-0.
It's a long discussion.
Just so they can get this down on the tape, right?
Well, we got there. We got there.
Okay, now we'll go back to any
Thank
other
you.
sewer business.
I think that was it, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Campino.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Liaison reports? On my left, on my right?
I spoke enough already.
The recycling committee is going to have to rethink going about the pay-as-you-throw, where there's an awful lot of questions about the plan that they had originally hoped to achieve, and the reason that they put together the committee that they did in September, which never really came to fruition because nobody from the community really stepped up to do it. But anyways, if you were thinking about it and you just hadn't quite gotten to town hall yet, you do not have to submit your application at this point. We will get some of the questions answered, and some of them have to go to council, and of course we're going to wait for that day when he's free, and we'll go from there. That's all I have. Oh, but can I just say something? I want to make sure, Mr. Andrews, that I get copied on the capital planning agendas. There was a capital planning meeting yesterday that I wasn't aware of.
You have to talk to, who's the chairman?
Well, the email's coming from Town Hall with the agenda, but I'm not on the email chain.
We can make that correction through you, Mr. Chairman, but I don't send out the correspondence.
No, I think it's coming from Barbara.
For the Capital Planning Committee?
Yeah.
Barbara goes.
I think Dave Trudell and Alan Slavin, I think Mrs. Slavin handles it. I'll send you what I have, and we can backtrack and make sure that you're on it, Madam Winslow.
Well, I just want to make sure that I know about those meetings. You know, yesterday I hadn't planned to be there, and I had to be somewhere else, and
Okay, but I think you're talking to the wrong guy, but I'm happy to make that effort to make sure that it happens.
okay, well, but what I'm saying is that the email that had gone out notifying the people of the meeting had originated in Town Hall, at a Town Hall email address. It wasn't from Mrs. Slavin, so that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Thank you.
the few committees that I'm on, the chairman usually sends each individual a notice, so.
That's what I thought. I thought it was
Right.
usually the chairman, but if it's coming from Town Hall.
Yeah, I'm happy to make sure you're on the chain. I know Mr. Slavin and Mr. Trudell have been working hard to get their capital plan ready for springtime, and I'm happy to make sure you're on it.
I don't have anything for liaison reports. I would just remind the chair that we did table the executive session minutes until Mr. Cruz got here. So before we adjourn, if we could do those once Mr. Cruz is done with, Mr. Holmes and yourself are done with your liaison reports.
Are you talking about the minutes?
Yeah, just to do
Right,
those
the
once we're done. I
December.
don't have any liaisons, so.
The December 14th minutes, are you going to do a liaison report, or you want me to just do these?
Yeah, this is what we have last, is the,
Yep,
is it
the,
both minutes, or we have,
Well, I'm sorry, and I was just doing it to remind, I don't know if Mr. Holmes or yourself, if either of you have liaison reports. I didn't want
No,
to take
no,
it out of order.
we went from,
Okay, well, all right, fine then.
it's only one because both, Mr. Holmes was absent on July 1st, and I had to leave early on July 1st, so we need to wait.
No, there
No,
was
no.
the other one, I'm sorry, there
Right,
was the
this-
December 14th.
December
14th.
Right.
Okay, and-
Walter asked if it was both, so
Oh,
it's
I'm
only,
sorry.
it's only one.
You want me to make the motion?
No, I got it. I make a motion to approve the executive session meeting minutes of December 14th, 2010, and hold said minutes. Well, actually, but I'm abstaining, so,
Right,
You
it
can
can
tell
be,
me.
right.
You can
Yeah.
tell
So
me.
we're going to make a motion to pass it without the whole. I
You
don't
can
think
make
we
the,
need a
yeah,
whole.
you can make the motion to approve and hold, and I'll second it.
okay, I made the motion, Brenda seconded it.
To approve and hold the minutes of December 14th.
The only question I have, so we have a lot of minutes that have been approved and held, and we haven't been going back, so we need to clear everything up, make sure we don't have them on hold for too long, so we can get it over with. I appreciate if we can go over it and clear it up and just put it on out there. Okay, motion was made and second.
Actually,
Hold.
can I just, before you do that,
Go ahead.
we voted this contract at town meeting, so we don't have to hold these ones, right?
You're doing December 14th one, right?
Right.
And this was executive session, so.
Was an executive session for number 3.
This is my attached proposal.
Wouldn't the matter be considered resolved now that the,
Because everything has been resolved with it, so. Any other discussion? So you still want to hold?
I don't think we need to hold them. Do we?
I don't think so. Waiting on it. Mr. Andrews, do you have?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Andrews. Mr. Andrews, while there are 2 units on here, I know that, once they've been approved, they're public records. I know that there was one before it was approved, that there was another group that had a draft of it. But once they are approved, once we've signed off on those contracts, they're done, right? And we have signed those, as Mr. Winslow said, those are the ones that were at town meeting, right?
Mr. Chairman, I would just ask that we hold them because they may have been signed, but they still have to go through town meeting and be funded, which is part of the
Oh,
agreement.
these ones weren't? I thought these ones were.
I thought these ones were part of the list
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, because,
You know what, if, I would say, if we could do, just to make sure we can approve and hold, and if Mr. Andrews, if there, oh, it wasn't completed, okay. So we'll approve and hold, and if there is something, which now you just answered, then there is anything that we can hold them. I mean, we can release them if there was, but if there is something, then, yeah. Okay,
yeah, motion made to approve and hold,
and seconded.
seconded. All in favor?
aye.
All opposed? 4-0-0.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made adjourn. I hear
Second.
second. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good evening.